So
Look how many religions the devil has tried to create. Look at how many other avenues for redemption or the way of living or, Buddhism. Oh, and, be good. And if your good works will get you to heaven, or the Islamic religion, where they also recognize Jesus as a prophet.
Yeah.
And they say that he's a prophet, but they say, oh, he wasn't God though. Well, that is a direct contradiction, because if they say Jesus is a prophet, which means they believe in his teachings and they say his teachings are true, but then you say he's not a man of God, that religion just contradicted himself.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that work? Because when we look at the Bible and we go through all 66 books written by 40 different men in 3 different languages, there's over 60,000, I think it's 63,700, I don't remember the exact number, over 63,000 correlations with 0 contradictions.
How about Isaiah? 700 years before Jesus gets here, he starts talking about a rock that's going to be set in Zion, and everyone who trusteth in that rock will not be ashamed. I mean, come on, 700 years? What? I don't know what happened 300 years ago.
Yep. Not to mention the hundreds of prophecies that the Bible has talked about that have come true or are still coming true to this day. And if you do the math and the numbers on it, it literally doesn't make sense.
I spent 18 months, 1 or 2 hours a night, studying the Bible. And when I finally got to Revelation 22, I realized I'd not been able to find a single provable error or contradiction. And I found over 200 places where the Bible accurately predicted future scientific discoveries. And I still remember the night. It was like 1 a.m. I went through a calculation. What's the probability that these Bible authors could have predicted all these scientific discoveries accurately without the God of the universe inspiring them to write what they wrote? And that probability was less than 1 chance in 10 to the 300 power. And that was week. My physics professor gave us an assignment to calculate the probability that one of us in the class would be killed by a sudden reversal of the second law of thermodynamics. That probability is 1 chance in 10 to the 80th, which is so small, no one needs to worry about ever being killed by a reversal of the second law of thermodynamics. But I had just proved to myself that the message of the Bible was 10 to the 220 times more reliable than the second law of thermodynamics.
But it's a ridiculous number.
But I know there's only one more that's going to shut the world up.
Exactly.
When he splits that sky. When he splits that sky and he shows up, it's going to put everyone on their face, everyone on their knees.
Yep.
There's going to be repentance in the land that day, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
When he steps out on that cloud and you hear that shout and that trumpet blast.
Every knee will bend, every head will bow, man.
Yeah.
You won't have a choice, because we're going to see something that we can't even understand. We're going to see something that our brain can't comprehend, that AI can't imagine. Like, we're going to see something that in the Bible, when you read it and it says what it's going to be like, it doesn't even make sense. And I've always been a thinker. I've always been like literal. I've always liked science and like studies. Me and you have talked a lot about like fasting and stuff like that, because I've looked into worldly studies on fasting and the healing qualities of it and things like that. And I thought it was ironic, because while I was going down that route to try to fix some of my own ailments, I completely had forgot that fasting is all throughout the Bible. And not only Jesus, but Moses, Elijah, and many others had done fasts. And those 3 did 40-day fasts. They did aggressively long fasts. And look at the things they did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, look at their lives. And
think about it. When God has one of his children sitting there starving to death, he knows it. He says not a sparrow falls to the ground that he don't know about. He says, don't they get what they need? He said they're not reaping.
They're not reaping and sowing, putting in barns.
But guess what? God still feeds them, and he knows when one of those fall to the ground. How much more are we, is what he said.
Yes.
And it's like, well, how do we treat the homeless? People who have not.